Tomorrow, making a return appearance on the program, former Surgeon General Jocelyn Elders and her controversial Playboy interview, and tomorrow night, here and here only. Is this for sure? The inventor of the margarita. That'll be fun. Now on to a story of life and death and of passion for a cause. You may have read in the papers or heard on television that President Clinton announced he would permit most of the Cuban refugees living at the Guantanamo base in Cuba to come to the United States. But after them, that's it, he says. All the others will be sent back to Cuba. This new policy has outraged Cuban Americans, none more so than my next guest. He himself is a refugee from Cuba who rose to become a congressman in the United States Congress, and he also is related distantly to Cuba's dictator Fidel Castro. Here is Representative Lincoln Diaz-Balart joining us now from the CBS affiliate WCIX in his home district of Miami, Florida. Congressman, thank you for coming on and welcome to our program.
Pleasure, Tom. Congratulations.
Thank you. The 20,000 Cubans who are now living at Guantanamo Bay, what is their status in Cuba?
Well, they don't have a status in Cuba.
Right.
They're under the jurisdiction of the United States, and they were in indefinite detention until finally now the administration decided to announce a policy with regard to those people and let them apply for, on an individual case-by-case basis, apply for political asylum. That's something that I maintain should be permitted pursuant to international law. But the administration just didn't have a policy until, like you said, just a couple of days ago.
Right. Now, let me ask you a question here. You said that they could apply for citizenship. So, therefore, if you're at Guantanamo now, it doesn't mean you're automatically coming to the United States.
That's right. That's right. They're going to review case by case,
right,
all the folks in Guantanamo. But in all likelihood, overwhelming majority of them are going to be able to come. And by the way, most of those folks have relatives here in the United States and or sponsors. And they had them from the time that they went there, but they were, as I say, they were being held indefinitely, and they were being told nothing until a couple of days ago.
Right. Now, you have no problem, I'm sure, with those 20,000, give or take, coming to the United States. But you...
Well, you can't hold folks indefinitely for the crime of seeking freedom, especially when they have... I mean, I think we have a legitimate concern in the sense of making sure that people either have relatives or they have sponsors, that kind of thing.
Right.
And that was done. In other words, it was from the beginning. There was a process set in motion where people would have sponsors or family here, and as they've said, they're going to review them individually. But what you can't do is just tell 20 or 30,000 people whose only crime was to seek freedom, well, you're going to be there indefinitely. That's what they had told them before.
Okay, but now that period, from what I read in the papers and hear on television, that period is over. Those people at Guantanamo can apply through channels and possibly come to the United States.
Right.
What is it that angers you about what remains of American policy vis-a-vis people living in Cuba who want to come to the United States? What is wrong with our policy as it was announced by the president 2 days ago?
Well, first of all, it was negotiated in secret. The administration had said that the only negotiations that were going on with Castro were State Department negotiations that were being led by some folks at the State Department called Ambassador Skoll and Mr. Hayes. And the administration said that's the only thing that's going on. Then we find out, day before yesterday, there were a whole series of secret negotiations, which we suspected were going on, but they announced as the first step that comes as a result of the secret negotiations that for the first time in history, because we've never done that, the U.S. has never done that with a communist country, we are going to, if anybody should escape now from state security, after the deal that was worked out last September, Castro said, I'm not going to let anybody escape pursuant to the deal. But now, if anybody does escape, then we, for the first time in history, are going to pick them up, either our Coast Guard or our Navy, and it was said day before yesterday that we were going to have permission from Castro to go back into Cuban ports because we're going to have U.S. officials working with Castro's officials there to process people, at least let them fill out a piece of paper saying, I want to go to the United States, and I'll go to the U.S. intersection.
I'm getting confused here. I'm getting confused. Yeah. Let's suppose that somebody gets to the United States without permission from Cuba. Right. We take them back to Cuba? Is that the policy now?
That's what was announced. That's what was announced. And we've never done that with a communist country. I mean, think of someone going over the Berlin Wall and being turned back to the Stasi or to DGI or to the KGB. I mean, that's what we've announced, and it's something it's so shocking, Tom. People in this town are in shock. We just couldn't conceive of a U.S. vessel, U.S. flag, picking up a rafter, and we had a 90-year-old lady last summer that we actually picked up. I mean,
Right.
it's that dramatic. That's
Right.
that, you know, that's the kind
Right.
of scene, or little children, and saying, Castro's gunboats, come over here. You know, we're turning them over. That's something it's shocking. Now, people would agree that as part of a strong policy that we've been urging on the administration for, for a long period of time. For example, like they led with regard to Haiti. Part of a strong policy like that could include a blockade that would even include a blockade of refugees.
Right.
And people understand that that would be included. We have a right to control our borders, and if Castro is going to threaten us, we have a right to impose a blockade. But not a blockade only on the poor refugees. In other words, if you're going to include the refugees, let's help the Cuban people get rid of Castro. Let's do a total blockade like we did in Haiti, or like we advocated, for example, in South Africa.
Or would you advocate an operation such as Just Cause in Panama, where our mission was to get Noriega out of there? Should we have a force to go down and get Castro out of there?
I've never advocated for American GIs to go in and risk their lives in Cuba. Never. And you know something? I'm in constant touch with the dissidents within the island, and they don't advocate that either. Nobody wants one American GI.
Why don't they
to die.
overthrow Castro?
Well, because first of all, he took everybody's guns, and there's an issue. It's an interesting issue when you've got a totalitarian dictatorship, and the first thing that the government does is confiscate everybody's weapons, and then establish block by block a security apparatus and a surveillance apparatus. It's almost impossible to overthrow the regime. And nevertheless, last summer we saw 30,000 people spontaneously hit the streets in Havana, which is what really scared Castro, and that's why he started threatening Clinton and finally got Clinton to sit down at the table.
Why don't they get 60,000 people on the streets and scare him some more?
Oh, it's going to happen.
Good.
It's going to happen.
Good.
But what we need to do is to send signs that we're on the Cuban people's side. Tell the dissident movement we're going to help you like we did in Eastern Europe. Go to the UN and try to get a blockade, or even tell Castro that when you threaten us next time there's going to be a blockade. Take steps like that, and don't do what Clinton just did, which was secretly make a deal saying we'll turn back any poor refugees that happen to escape.
Right,
we'll turn them back to state security, and then Castro was. You should have seen the video.
I'll tell you, I hate to interrupt you, sir, but I have to do a little break here. See,
Okay.
this isn't like the house. We have to stop here every once in a while and sell stuff. Okay? We'll be right back. Thank you, sir. With Lincoln Diaz-Balart at 800-952-2788. I wouldn't hold out a lot of hope for the phones. We'll be right back after these messages.